Hello my friends, welcome to my channel, Lindy's Magpie Reads. I'm Lindy and I read a lot. That intro clip that you saw at the beginning was some footage that I took from the upper level of a double-decker bus on the way from Victoria to Swartz Bay, which is where the ferry comes in from Vancouver. I was meeting up with a dear friend of mine who came to visit from Vancouver, stayed a couple of nights. So good to reconnect with friends, always. And I'm really happy to connect with my booktube friends here. So thanks for joining me. Before I get to the books that I finished in the past little while, I want to mention that tomorrow I am leaving for Whitehorse. I'll just be there for a few days visiting my sister and her family there, and I'm also going to be selling some of my cotton shawls and bandanas that I have dyed with natural dyes. I am a member of the Northern Fibre Arts Guild, and it's a Fibre Arts Guild sale, so I'm mostly looking forward to reconnecting with other members of the guild and with my sister and her family. So I can tell you more about that in my next video. And those of you who follow me regularly know that I have been reading the short story Advent calendar. And today's short story was a standout. It's by Beryl Bainbridge. So good. This is the best one so far out of 6. So cool to have a new short story to read every day. Okay, on to the books. Starting with a DNF. I often don't talk about books that I don't finish, but this audiobook, I just have to say, sometimes I make a mistake. And in this case, I'm talking about Unruly, The Ridiculous History of England's Kings and Queens, and it's by David Mitchell. I saw it pop up as a new book on Libby, put my name on the waiting list for the audio, and I just assumed that it was the David Mitchell who wrote Cloud Atlas and Utopia Avenue and 1,000 Autumns of Jacob Zoot and Black Swan Green. No. As soon as I started listening, I could tell by the voice, this is some other David Mitchell. And I looked it up and learned that he's an actor and comedian, and there's definitely a sense of humor in this history book. But by chapter 2, I'm going to read you a passage that I transcribed, which let me know that this book was not for me. England was a word that gradually gained currency, like mansplain or staycation, and it was fully in use by the time William the Conqueror was king of it. I expect you've heard of him. Most people know that in 1066, William the Conqueror, not at that point so named, won the Battle of Hastings and became King of England. When it comes to the likely audience for this book, that most must rise to all. If there's anyone listening to this book who didn't already know that, I would love to hear from you, because you are genuinely delving into a genre that was previously of no interest. You, if you exist, and I bet you don't, are an absolute confounder of the algorithms. Yeah, so much as I would like to confound algorithms, although I'd heard of William the Conqueror, I couldn't have told you that he was the first King of England, nor that he won the battle at Hastings in 1066. English history is pretty vague to me, living here in Canada. I thought, oh, okay, let's see what else. Well, I think I got about 2.5 hours into the audiobook. Well, it was around 30% of it anyway. And I finally gave up because I just find English monarchy kind of boring. And maybe it was just the style that this David Mitchell was using, and his particular sense of humor didn't do it for me. No. So on I went to another audiobook, which worked so much better. It's the latest in the Murderbot Diaries. It's called System Collapse by Martha Wells. So this is book number 7. You're probably best starting from the beginning with this series, but it really shines with the voice, and I am still not tired of Murderbot's voice 7 books in. Things like, humans are great at imagining stuff. That's why their media is so good. So Murderbot, if you don't know, is like a cyborg construct created to be a killing machine, and this particular one has overridden his governor module, and he has got he's self-governing. So the issue of sentient intelligence and personal freedom, as well as relationships and friendships, are issues that Martha Wells is very concerned with throughout this series. There's always a lot of action and adventure. Murderbot is a character who's agender and asexual. It says that it likes to skip through the sex scenes on all the entertainment media that it watches, but watching this kind of, I don't know, like space Netflix stuff it is its favorite thing. It finds it really relaxing and also helps it to understand humans. The stories tend to drop you right in the middle of the action, and this one is especially so because Murderbot, who's writing this kind of like a diary to itself, is redacting as it's writing when redacted happened. So you have to wait quite a ways into the story before you find out what exactly happened. I'm fine with that. It kind of adds to the intriguing puzzle of these narrative arcs. But the main thing that I enjoy about these books is the character of Murderbot itself and the other characters that it interacts with. Yeah, so much fun, true fun. Next up, I'm going to tell you about a picture book, a children's picture book called The Words We Share, and this is by Jack Wong. You might remember that I talked about his award-winning picture book, When You Can Swim, recently. Well, this one is his newest. Jack Wong is a Chinese-Canadian. He came with his family to Canada when he was quite young, grew up in Vancouver, now lives in Halifax, I think. And in this story, we have a father and daughter, a single parent, who are new immigrants to Canada, and the daughter is helping him out a lot with English. And it's such a touching story about interdependence. Some of the times you can tell that the daughter feels a little bit like it's too much to have this responsibility, but most of the time she's very proud of it. And also you see that the father is able to come to his daughter's assistance too when she needs it. His art in here is quite different from When We Can Swim. It's a more looser sort of style. And I did read an interview with Jack Wong on the blog Let's Talk Picture Books. I think the blogger is Mel Shuett. So I will link that down below. And one of the things that the interviewer asks Jack Wong is, who are your favorite artists? And he mentioned somebody I'd never heard of before, Kitty Crowther. So I was curious, and I had to go and find the 2 books at the Victoria Public Library that have art by Kitty Crowther. So this is what I'm going to tell you about next. These 2. Kitty Crowther is a Belgian artist who has a English father and a Swedish mother, grew up in Belgium, and she's got this wonderful expressive style with colored lines, done mostly with pencil crayons. And in this book, Stories of the Night, it's a bedtime story. She has also used makeup. I think that's where the bright pink comes from. It was in Jules Donaldson's blog, 7 Impossible Things Before Breakfast, where she mentions makeup being used as part of the art materials in here. So this story was originally written in Swedish and translated by Julia Marshall. I absolutely loved it. It's Mother Bear telling 3 bedtime stories to her baby bear, who loves to have stories retold because she's asking for them by name. Tell me the one about the man who can't sleep at night. And each of the little stories ends with someone going to sleep, the main character going to sleep. The electric pink in this book is just so distinctive and beautiful. Absolutely love it. And next is another book illustrated by Kitty Crowther. In this case, it is written by the Swedish author Ulf Stark, The Runaways. And the translation again is by Julia Marshall, translation from Swedish. It is an early chapter book, again with these gorgeous kind of Fauvist kind of illustrations. It's a story of a little boy and his grandfather. The grandfather is sick in the hospital, his heart not good. His grandfather hates being in the hospital, and grandfather and grandson come up with a plan to run away from the hospital, and hence the title, The Runaways. So this book is primarily aimed at an audience in probably grades 2 to 5, but I thought it was fantastic, and I'll recommend it to adults for sure. Both of these books, by the way, are published by Gecko Press, which is a New Zealand publisher of excellent children's books from around the world. And I just got this book out from the library, Pictured Worlds by Leonard Marcus. The subtitle is, let me just see here, Masterpieces of Children's Book Art by 101 Essential Illustrators from Around the World. And I've only just started delving into it, but there is a section on Kitty Crowther. You can see what she looks like here. And the book that Leonard Marcus features is one that originally came out in French, Mère Méduse. The English title for that is Mother Medusa, which I find a little bit strange because Méduse is actually a jellyfish, but I guess the alliteration sounds better. that looks like a good book too. Next up is a graphic novel for adults, Woman Historia, and I read volumes 1 through 3. It's written by Kelly Sue DeConnick, who's famous for her Bitch Planet comics and Pretty Deadly series. She worked with different artists for each of the 3 volumes, which I thought was pretty cool. I'm going to put a rainbow flag in the notes down below because even though Kelly Sue DeConnick is cis and, as far as I know, straight, there's a very queer sensibility in this with the Amazons, Society of All Women, what do you figure? And also because Phil Jimenez, who does the first volume, is a gay man himself, and I think his sensibility really comes through in his gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous illustrations. Wow. The style changes from volume to volume, and that doesn't stop the quality from remaining top notch. So the art in volume 2 is by Jean Ha, and in volume 3 it's by Nicola Scott. So on the back you can see a little bit of the goddess Hera and how she was represented by all 3 of the artists. This is an all new kind of retelling of how the Amazons came to be, and it's so feminist and true delight to read. I highly recommend it. And last up, more visual art. This is a big fat graphic memoir by Deb JJ Lee called In Limbo, and she's writing about her high school years and her mental health. She immigrated from Seoul, Korea, with her parents when she was, I think, a toddler to the US, and lived for a while, I think, in the American South, and then mostly in New Jersey. So she does write about some racism that she experienced, people making fun of her eyes, for example, but mostly she has a lot of trouble making friends, and the few friends that she has some difficulty maintaining those relationships, and it's so nuanced the way that she covers it in here. Her relationship with her mother was particularly difficult. Her mother uses physical violence quite freely, and that's something that is culturally acceptable in Korea. Deb tries to talk about this with her friends, but doesn't get very far. She also is really keen to have eye surgery, the fold surgery on her eyes, once she graduates from high school, and this is something that her mother also encourages her to do. So there's that issue going on in here. One of the things that she experiences as part of her mental health condition is feeling numb, feeling like she's looking at everything through a glass, that she's so separate from others. And I cared for her so much. I was brought to tears in some portions of this book. It's so well done. The pull quote on the cover is by Tilly Walden, and for sure, if you enjoy Tilly Walden's work, I highly recommend this as well. What Walden says is, "In Limbo is a tour de force, stunning from the first page to the last and totally unforgettable." Now her art is very detailed, all in this blue shades. Warning, she does have some suicide attempts. Oh, beautiful, really affecting memoir. Yeah, I really loved this. Since the time of the memoir, Deb JJ Lee has come out as non-binary and now uses the pronouns they, them. And that's all I've got for you today. So thank you so very much for watching. As always, I appreciate your comments, so please say hello down below, or I don't know, put in a little bird emoji or something like that. I'm going to end off this video with a teeny bit of footage from the Galloping Goose Trail, which is a walking and cycling pathway that comes really close to where I live in Victoria. It was a rainy day and still lovely to walk in the trees and see the water, and galloping goose with an octopus on a bicycle. Why not? Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.